Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is the second episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ecchi. I am your host, Mr. Sean, and today we are looking at a somewhat newer ecchi title known as To Save the World, Can You Wake Up the Morning After with a Demi Human, which first started publishing in 2020. There are currently 5 books in the series, at least 5 books translated into English, and today we will be looking at whether or not it is a good series, or if we like it because we're just really horny. We will get into that in just a second, but first we have the ad. As you may know, this channel is not monetized, I have no sponsors and no Patreon, but what I do have are custom miniatures, which I sell both on my Etsy and my eBay pages, links in the description. If you are an ecchi fan, you may know that while you can certainly find plenty of titillating pieces of work, official merchandise from the companies of your favorite ecchi titles, it is not so easy to find such things of Western properties. At Chimera Miniatures, on top of all the other items and custom miniatures we offer, we have a unique line of not safe for work HeroClix miniatures. Whether you're looking for topless titans or X-rated X-Men, Chimera Miniatures has the HeroClix you need. Add some spice to your session, some titties to your tabletop with Chimera Miniatures. And without further ado, let's get into episode 2 of The Good, the Bad, and the Ecchi. As always, we will start this review off with the plot, and we'll start the plot off by reading the back blurb of the first book. Long ago, the Chosen One defeated the Demon King and brought peace to the world. Not that it matters to ordinary high school student Hironori Tabata, but word is the Demon King's coming back, and the only thing that can stop him is what's in Hironori's pants. Before long, Demi Human girls are throwing themselves at him, hoping to give birth to the next Chosen One, and Hironori has to worry more about saving his chastity for the girl he loves than saving the world. Alright, so right off the bat, this is looking pretty horny as far as the plot goes. I mean, just on the back blurb, we've already basically the only thing we really know is that there's going to be a bunch of Demi Human girls trying to have sex with this guy. And as we explore the book, that's really all that there is to this story. When we start the first chapter, we're introduced to the main character. By page 14, he's already been told that he carries the hero seed, so to speak, and by page 29, he's already done the deed with one demi-human girl. And every chapter basically just introduces a brand new demi-human girl who sleeps with him by the end of the chapter, or they're coming back in for another round. And that's really all there is to it. There's no real depth, there's no, growing narrative. It's just, hey, here's a new monster girl, have sex with her. This one, hands down, this plot is just horny. Moving on to the dialogue, as you might be able to have guessed from the plot synopsis I just gave, the dialogue here is very wooden. It honestly comes across about as natural as the dialogue from a porno film. Most of the conversation is just exposition dumping, followed by them going, oh yeah, you're the guy I'm supposed to have bareback cream pie sex with. What isn't just straight up horny exposition is just pretty bland, and all in all, this one, dialogue, again, this one gets a horny. Now let's look at character design. So, in this story, the main character is very bland and one-dimensional and is pretty much treated as nothing more than a sperm dispensary. Meanwhile, all the Epiphany Maidens, which are what they call the demi-human women that are supposed to receive his seed to potentially birth the next hero, are very one-dimensional. They each have roughly one personality trait, and beyond that, they are nothing more than a sperm receptacle. This one gets a horny. Moving on to the art style, this art is very simplistic. I mean, it's better than anything I can draw, but that's not really saying much. The only time any real detail work is put into the artwork is if it's focusing on one of the Epiphany Maiden's more feminine attributes, so to speak. The only reason this story is a manga instead of just, say, a light novel is because they wanted to throw in images to arouse you. Art style gets a horny. Alright, now let's talk about the TNA content. And this manga is full of it. The amount of cleavage, panty shots, censored nudity, images where it's clear the girl is cleaning herself up after having sex with the main character. I mean, that's like 50% of this manga. Now, technically yes, the TNA content drives the plot, but that's because the TNA content really is used in place of a plot. Which is why I'm conflicted on what to rate this, because it certainly isn't good, but ultimately, as horny as this is, it's doing what it needs to do to move the story along, because it's not a great story. So oddly enough, I think for the TNA content, I'm gonna have to give this one a neutral, because ultimately, if it weren't for this, the rest of it just wouldn't make any sense. It's not good by any means, but it's serving its purpose and doing what it needs to do, so TNA content gets neutral. We now come to the last category, which is miscellaneous. I feel like in this series, this is going to be the category that most often gets neutral because it's just, is there anything else we need to talk about? But in this case, there actually is. So there's a couple of things that are not only problematic, but also a waste of potential in this manga. The Epiphany Maidens, who are meant to seek out the one with the hero seed and potentially get themselves impregnated with the next hero, seem to have just blindly accepted this as their role in all of this. Which, they really missed an opportunity where they could have really looked into the complex emotions around the idea of you have to sleep with someone you've never met in order to potentially save the world. And not only could have crafted a decent narrative around that, but could have given all the characters in the story room for personal growth as they come to terms with what this means. I mean, it would still be smutty as hell, but it would at least have a purpose. Instead, it's just, oh, okay, I gotta have sex with this guy? Cool. And then we have the problematic part of all of this. I mean, that was all kind of problematic, but there's a very problematic point in this narrative. So the only reason that this is a ecchi and not just a straight up hentai is that all of the sex acts occur off page. And the way they facilitate that is the main character, the man, alright, let's call him what he is. He's a boy. He's a high school student. This underage by Western standards, not by necessarily Japanese standards, but this minor, so to speak, is given something called full body erection syndrome, meaning that more or less when he gets into these sexual situations, he goes entirely stiff, like full body everything, and passes out. And so these multiple Epiphany Maidens are all doing the deed on him while he is unconscious. So let's just call a spade a spade. This main character, being a male teenager, is continuously raped throughout the entirety of this narrative. And while clearly this is meant to be some kind of wish fulfillment thing for men that all these women want to sleep with you, he straight up tells them no. Unfortunately, his biology kicks in and he just, he comes to, and the girl is cleaning herself up after she's had her way with him, and he's blown a load inside her, all while being unconscious. There is a girl in his class that he has feelings for, and instead of being able to save himself for her, he's just repeatedly sexually assaulted by these random women that want to get pregnant from him. And I know, maybe I'm being too harsh, and it's like, this is every teen boy's fantasy, But the fact of the matter is let's reverse the genders, and let's say that it was, instead of it being about a guy with the hero seed, let's say this was about a girl who was supposed to give birth to the next hero, and all of these Demi Human men were going to show up to try to impregnate her, and then, she ends up passing out, and each of these guys ends up doing that. People would be like, oh my god, this is the worst thing ever. This just honestly seems a little bit tone deaf for coming out within the past few years. So yeah, Miscellaneous, that gets horny. So looking at our final tally for this one, we have 0 good, 1 neutral, and 5 horny. So yeah, this one is horny. This one again, the only reason this one is a ecchi and not a straight up hentai is that it does censor out enough things that it can be sold in stores like, say, Barnes & Noble, which is where I first found this title. There is no literary value to this piece. It is simply meant to turn you on, and some aspects of it are fairly problematic as far as today's attitudes towards these subjects. I mean, that being said, if you just want to read a smutty manga about a guy who ends up having sex with a bunch of Demi Human women, then give this one a read. This piece is clearly just meant for pure smutty entertainment and nothing else, and that's not necessarily bad. It's up to you to decide whether that's something you're interested in, but if you want a really well-written story, I suggest you look elsewhere. So that's our review, guys. Thank you for staying with me. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, if you have an ecchi manga you would like me to look into and review, please leave that in the comments. Until next time, I'm your host, Mr. Sean. This has been The Good, the Bad, and the Ecchi on Chimera Miniatures, and I hope you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye.